So in this video, I just wanted to make a car. Pretty simple. But I've never really made a proper car in Trailmakers just because it's kind of simple. And I want this car to just be able to, do stuff. Only even maybe some drifting. But I doubt I'll get that right, so, But anyway, pretty simple. I just wanted to build like a small good looking car that can just drive and is just generally fun to drive. As most of my cars I make in any game, like Scrap Mechanic, are just an absolute pain to drive and just flip over all the time. So let's see what we can do. Now, aerodynamics were quite important, especially at the start, because I felt like, the more aerodynamics is, the faster it'll go, which is, well, be better. Now, I did have a pretty weird shape at the start, and for some reason I was using bicycle wheels, which aren't very good if you didn't know. As you kind of could just you could kind of start slipping out, and also they had no traction on the dirt, which is also a big problem. As you can see, we're trying to turn, and we can't. But yeah, it's not too bad. I think we're going to have to change out the wheels though. Now, I also felt like adding more engines, so that just made this thing faster. Oh well, a lot faster than adding more aerodynamics would. And I even added this cool little intake thing, engine intake thing on top of it, which made it look slightly cooler. Now I really need to stop using these slim wheels, as they first of all have no traction, and yeah, basically it. And they're also very light, which doesn't really help us. As you see, first person, it's pretty funny. Like, I'm actually quite like the suspension on this thing. It's actually quite good. And you can see, we're actually going absolutely flying here as well. Like, this thing's fast, or at least currently it is. It'll probably get a lot slower as we add more things. But yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Now it'd be nice to have like some more air control, which I might add. But even with a thruster, it's well quick enough. It can go around 120 miles an hour, I think, which is definitely fast enough. Now it does have a problem with flipping over though, which is kind of an issue, as I want this thing to be quite easy to drive and not feel like an absolute burden to drive either. But you can see it flips over very easily. Now I did add some gyros, or some steering gyros, whatever they're called, so you can have some air control. But it also affects you while you're not in the air, so that's probably why we're flipping over a lot more than usual. But it doesn't really matter, it's still quite nice to have. Then I had these skis, which with pistons could push out the bottom, which basically let you try to drift, except the drifting was a bit weird. It was basically just, it basically felt like you were frictionless, especially in the back. And also steering was also way worse, but that doesn't really matter. I'm going to try add this anyway and see how it goes. Now the pistons wouldn't really do what I want, so I then switched to steering hinges with a knot gate, so and it worked kind of. I also added some weight to the bottom, as I thought that might make it a bit more stable. I also added a spoiler to the front. I don't know why, but I didn't think we were getting enough traction. And as you can see with the skis, it's obviously, it feels very weightless, which is kind of a problem. I think I might actually have to swap out the wheels again for the wider ones, because this is just a bit not uncontrollable, but just not great. But yeah, it's not too bad. It could be a lot worse. And yeah, now getting out of the drifting's a bit annoying because you kind of turn after you lift all the skis up. But it's not too bad, to be fair, so I think it'll have to do. I also had made it so that I swapped out the skis with go-kart wheels as they have less traction. So I thought that would make a drift. And I also made it so the fins on the back fall down, so that we have less stability in the y-axis. And it's actually pretty good. The go-kart wheels definitely helped, but they sometimes felt a bit weird, and they kind of lift you off the ground a bit too much. and I kind of swapped out for this rotating servo system, which was a lot quicker, which made it a lot better to use. Now, of course, they were in a bit of an annoying position when they were folded up, and it's also weird because this isn't how drifting works at all. Like, I do get that, like, it's not proper drifting, because drifting, you don't, it's, yeah, but this is a kind of way to mimic it, kind of. It's incredibly strong, this drifting, so, like, you drift a bit too much, but I will. The thing's actually pretty fast, to be fair. And the air control is great. I do quite like the air control. It's quite nice having it. Although it is default air control, it's not strong enough really for my liking. So I think this is good. This thing is also incredibly durable for some reason. Like, it does not like to break easily. Like, you can like basically use this thing as a glider, and as long as you get the landing okay, you'll probably be fine. Now, this thing is also something that's very light and quite jumpy sometimes, but it doesn't really matter, and it's probably something to do with the fact that when we drift, we're like kind of kicking, well, we're like lifting ourselves up. And I also swapped out the go-kart wheels for, well, skis again, because it works a lot better, and it was also a lot more consistent, because go-kart wheels have quite a bit of traction on well, like, whatever this is, like concrete, so it would, well, yeah, not really work. Yeah, so I sorted out the wheels, which made it a lot better, I felt like. I think we might have lost a tiny bit of speed for it, but I don't think we did. As I'm pretty sure they're basically the same, just a bit wider, which stopped us from slipping over so much. And we could also go pretty fast still. Like 140 miles an hour is quite fast. Especially if you want, well, off-road. But yeah, as you can see, this thing's actually pretty durable as we just got into what probably would be a very fatal car accident when we flipped over. But no, it's completely fine, basically. I mean, of course this is just Trailmakers, but it's actually quite good. And I do quite like driving around this in first person. It's actually quite satisfying. So the drifting definitely isn't, it just looks a bit weird. But yeah, as you can see, this thing's so incredibly durable. Probably because of the suspension system I've got, it can land basically on anything. Oh yeah, and then I added this selfie stick. It's basically just this stick that sticks out the back at an angle with a camera on. So it's kind of like a third-person view, but just closer to the car. And I also made it so the hinges were less strong. Well, gave the bearings. I gave the hinges less strength, so it kind of like react with while you were driving. But I made it a bit too weak, so it didn't do much. But it's actually pretty good. Of course, it does like oscillate backwards and forwards quite a bit, but you can actually feel it when you like crash into something, because it actually like shakes the entire thing, which is actually pretty cool. It's not great, but it's definitely something. As you can see, our camera starts to go everywhere when you start crashing into these things. But this is a pretty cool thing I did. I managed to land on this without actually too much damage, then I fell off again. And then I also landed this, which I survived. But yeah, this thing's pretty cool. This thing's incredibly fast, and since it's got a space thrust on the back, it can practically fly. So yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah, I quite like this thing. It's not the best kart. I think I squeezed a bit too much stuff into such a small space that it's basically kind of a bit too small, I'd say. But oh well. The drifting's pretty good. Something that's not good is that this thing just basically can't stop for some reason. I was crashing that wall there. It's actually pretty cool, and the air control is especially helpful. So like when you go off a ramp and you might be at a bit of an angle, you just fix that mid-air. But I generally like the first person view, and this is actually quite good. You can see the wheels, you can see the steering wheel. And yeah. So it's quite nice. Now I'm going to say, this is very different to building a, well, car in scrap mechanic, which is the game I usually play. As cars in scrap mechanic do not work like this at all. Like, they're a lot more, I wouldn't say glitchy, but so they basically are a lot weirder. Whereas in Trailmakers it's a lot easier to make a good car than in scrap mechanic. Plus I quite like this thing. Now it's not invincible, but it's actually pretty durable. So you can basically just, well, do as much jumps as you want, and most of the time this thing will survive. Except then sometimes it gets a bit glitchy and kind of just explodes. But that's just Trailmakers for you. And to be fair, the car has taken a substantial amount of damage, but just not enough to actually do much. But yeah, it can't flip itself back over, which is probably something I should have added. But it doesn't affect you too much, you have to repair instead. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm probably going to do another I'll probably do another Trailmakers video next, because I'm quite enjoying playing Trailmakers. But yeah, I don't know. This car's definitely not perfect, but it's pretty good. The drifting definitely needed some fine tuning, but this is still pretty good. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.